Hi, my name is Miss Pam, and I'm from Building Blocks Child Development Center here in Spencer, West Virginia. And I have a book and an art project to do with you today. My book is called Chameleons Are Cool, and that is written by Martin Jerkins and illustrated by Sue Shields. And you can tell we like this book. It needs a little bit of tape on it. Chameleons are lizards, and lizards are reptiles like snakes, crocodiles, and tortoises. There are about 4,000 kinds of lizards altogether, including around 120 different chameleons. Just over half of all the types of chameleons come from Madagascar, a big island off the east coast of Africa, and most of the others live in mainland Africa. And look at this. Aren't those cool looking lizards? Some lizards eat bananas. Chameleons don't. Some lizards walk upside down on the ceiling. Chameleons can't. There's even a lizard that glides from tree to tree. A chameleon certainly wouldn't do that. It says gecko's toes are as sticky as Velcro. The flying lizard glides on wing-like flaps of skin. And iguanas don't just eat bananas, they love all sorts of fruit. But all the different kinds of lizards, I still think chameleons are the best. Chameleons are cool. It's not that they are all that big. The biggest one is only about the size of a rather small cat. It's called an Aucelet's chameleon, and it lives in Madagascar. Whatever their size, chameleons usually get sick and die if kept as pets. They're much better left off than the wild. They can't be really, really small, though. They can be really, really small, though. The smallest one could balance happily on your little finger. And it's called a Dwarf Brooksia. And it lives in Madagascar, too. Now, this one's about the size of a cat, and this one's just a little teeny tiny one. Look at that. Wow. And I suppose you wouldn't exactly call many of them beautiful. Their skin is wrinkly and bumpy, and they got big bulgy eyes, while lots of them have the most ridiculous noses. I think it's their nose I like best. Look at that. All their noses are different. This one's got a long nose. This one's got two horns on his nose. This one has little bumps on his nose. He's got 3 horns on his nose. His little noses, wow. Just wow. Look at all of that. They are so cool. Their mouths are pretty odd too. They turn down at the corners, which is why chameleons always look grumpy. Actually, they don't just look grumpy. They are grumpy. So if 2 chameleons bump into each other, things can get pretty lively. There's lots of puffing and hissing, and sometimes there's a real fight. And that's when chameleons do what they're most famous for. They change color. A chameleon will fight only with the same kind of chameleon as itself. So, as long as they're the same kind of chameleon, yeah, they get fussy with each other. But if it's a different kind of chameleon, they don't. Lots of people think chameleons change colors to match their surroundings. They don't. They change color when they're angry, or when they're too cold, or too hot, or when they're sick. And there are some sorts of chameleons that hardly change color at all. As a rule, though, chameleons don't bump into one another all that often. I suppose it wouldn't be fair to call them lazy, but they certainly don't move any more than they have to. And when they do, it's almost always incredibly slowly. Sometimes they stop completely mid-step, as if they've forgotten what they were supposed to be doing. But if you look closely, you'll see that they're actually carefully peering around. So the chameleon's feet are shaped like pinchers for holding onto branches tightly. Look at that. His feet are like that. Now, peering about is something chameleons are rather good at. That's because their eyes can move separately from each other, unlike our eyes, which always move together. So while one eye is looking back over the chameleon's shoulder, the other one is scanning the branches ahead. Look at that. They're looking in two different ways. As soon as it spots something tasty, the chameleon fixes both eyes on its prey and begins to creep forward, even more slowly than usual. Then it opens its mouth just a crack and flop. Out shoots this amazingly long tongue with a sticky tip at the end, like a piece of well-chewed chewing gum. Says, oh, we've missed this one back here. Let's turn back. I'm going to read this little part. Most of a chameleon's eyes is covered with skin, like the rest of its body. There is a tiny peephole in the middle that the chameleon sees through. See it right there? It's just a little tiny peephole that they look out of. And this says, chameleons feed on all sorts of creepy crawlies. The big ones also eat small birds, mice, and even other chameleons. I don't think I'd want to do that. Then the tongue flies back, and there's a lot of chomping and chewing, and perhaps a few bit of insects' legs fluttering to the ground. Ugh. And after that, the chameleon just sits there for an hour or two, doing nothing very much at all, looking quite exhausted and still grumpy after all that hard work. It says most lizards gulp their food down without chewing it, but chameleons grind everything up thoroughly. That means he's a lot of chomp, 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 chomp. And I suppose if you're a chameleon, that looks tasty. Yummy for a chameleon. And there you have it. How could you possibly resist a pocket-sized, bad-tempered, collar-changing, swivel-eyed, snail-paced, long-tongued sharpshooter? If chameleons aren't cool, then I don't know what is. The end. And there we go. Now we have learned something about chameleons. So in our book, it says that chameleons don't like to change color, or they don't change color when they're around certain things. Okay? Like if a chameleon was on my bag here, it would want to be red. Or if the chameleon was on my piece of paper here, it would want to be blue. So as chameleons change colors when they're cold, or when it's too hot, or when they're mad. You ever seen somebody get mad and their face get red? Yeah, kind of like that. Yeah, they change colors. But they only change colors when they have to, okay? It's not that they go, oh, look, a blue piece of paper, let's be blue. Or a red bag, let's be red. Or a white paper, let's be white. They change color when they're mad, cold, or hot. And, yeah, they kind of do look like they're grumpy all the time. Like their mouth turned down and they're grumpy. Well, we are not grumpy, are we? We are not going to be grumpy today. We are going to be happy. And we're going to do an art project. So you ready? So sometimes I have to make patterns, okay? And I have to make patterns to be able to make something. So I'm going to show you how I make a pattern for something. Like, because I can draw a few things, but I can't draw a whole lot. I'm not very good. I'm not very talented like you. So I have to kind of trace somebody else's. So what we're going to do is I'm going to find us a picture here in this book, and we are going to trace a chameleon. All right. So I'm going to take this chameleon right here because he's little and he's not real big and he's kind of easy to draw around. And I don't know whether you can see it very good. Hold on a second. Let's try it like this too. Open our book up and we'll lay it down like this. And, well, let's trace this guy. He's darker. He'll be easier to see. All right. So, I don't know whether you can see him in there real good, but we can see our chameleon. And we're going to draw right around him. Just like this. And up here like this. And down around like this. And a spiral around for his tail. Draw it back out. There we go. Alright. And let's see. Oh, I forgot this going this way. And then we got some legs. And here's another leg. Okay. So see, it doesn't have to be perfect because we're getting ready to cut this out. Alright. So there's our, does it kind of look like that? Yeah, I lost his foot back there. But that's okay because we just want the outside. Alright. So then I put that paper on a piece of hard paper and I cut it out. So we gotta have our scissors. And we're going to take our scissors and we're going to put our thumb in the little hole and our fingers in the big hole. And then we're going to kind of cut around. And we're going to keep curling our paper. We're cutting around in a circle and you just keep turning your paper. Alright. And we're making our chameleon a tail. And it's kind of hard to do sometimes. You just kind of got to get it started, okay? Especially when you're going to cut out a circle. It's kind of hard, okay? Then we're going to cut up through here, and we're going to cut our chameleon some feet. And remember, we're just kind of cutting a pattern, okay? And then around his head. And his eye, and top of his head, and back down around his body. And there, look at that. We have a chameleon. Okay, now, sometimes when you do like this, you gotta get a little, and you gotta take your scissors, and you gotta cut him just a little bit to make sure he's nice and smooth. So sometimes he's not real nice and smooth. Alright? So there is our chameleon. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to take our chameleon. Uh-oh. Be careful with my book. You always got to be careful with our books. And then we're going to take our chameleon and we're going to draw him just like that on our paper plate. So we got we're going to use a marker for this one. And I just have my new box of markers and I don't know what I did with them. There we go. Got a new black marker because my black marker was pretty bad. Okay, so we're going to lay our pattern down and we're going to trace around our chameleon. Okay, we'll trace his legs. And then we're going to trace his tail. And looks to me like I need a little bit off of his tail right there. So, I'm going to try that too. Alright, so we got it. And I got to trace this right here because I missed it. Alright, so there is our chameleon on our paper plate. So, we're going to take our paper plate, one of them. And you have to have your parents do this part, okay? Because it's kind of hard. You have to push your scissors through there. And then you got to cut out your chameleon. So we're going to go around. I'm having a hard time keeping hold of things today. And we're going to turn our plate. Remember, our scissors don't move. Our scissors don't move very much. But our plate does, or our paper does. Okay. Alright, and down we go. And getting off camera there, wasn't I? Alright. So now we cut out the rest of our chameleon. Turning our paper plate. That tail part is hard to cut out. Okay. go. Now you can do this on any kind of other surface or thing that you want. You could do it out of paper. But I kind of like the paper plate, and I'll show you why in just a minute. Alright. I'm cleaning up my lines here just a little bit. Alright, so now does it look like we have our chameleon? I think so. Alright, he's a little on the jaggedy side. But that's when you have to go through here and kind of trim out just a little bit. Or if you don't follow the lines. So Miss Pam wasn't very good about following the lines this time, was she? Well, that happens sometimes. Okay. So do we look like we got a chameleon now? Yeah, I think so. I think he looks like a chameleon. Alright, so now we're going to take another paper plate. And this is where it gets fun. Because you take all of your colors and you think about all the different things on a chameleon. Like we saw some spots. Let me see spots on the chameleons. Okay. Make some spots. And then we saw all kinds of different colors. Maybe some yellow. Oh, look at that. I'm going to make a little bit of green in the process. Some yellow. Looking all over the plate. I said this is the fun part. You get to color all over the place. And you don't have to color in the lines. Because there's no lines. Look at that. So we get some yellow. And what other colors do we see in our book? Some orange. Some orange down through there. And maybe some red stripes. Maybe some red stripes here and there. There's no lines. There's nothing that says this is right, this is wrong. This is yours. You can make it any way you want to. How about some purple curlicues? I think we've had some purple curlicues on our chameleon. You just never know. Maybe it's a kind of chameleon in Madagascar that maybe when you grow up you can be a scientist and you find it. Okay? And how about some pink? A little bit of pink in there. I have some pink. Alright, and how about just a little bit of green? Yeah, we'll just put some green here. We'll just make some green stripes like that. All the way across our plate. And just like that. What do you think? Does it look good? Kind of looks different, doesn't it? We didn't have anybody saying it has to be this or it has to be that. We made it any way we wanted to. All right, so now we put this on top of this and we put one of these fasteners. These are called fasteners and some people call them brads. And what they are is a little tiny piece of metal that has two ends on it, okay? So you line your plates up really, really good, and you poke a hole through your plates, but make your mark, and maybe poke it with a pencil, or maybe have your adult use your scissors, all right, and poke a hole right there in the middle, all right? So then we put our piece in there, and on the back of it, we flip one end one way and one end the other way. Just like that. And there is your chameleon. And watch. So your chameleon, he's walking along and he sees another chameleon and what happens? He gets angry. Or he sees a delicious looking bug and he changes colors. And there you made a color changing chameleon. And he can just be any color, and you can make him look any way you want. All right. Well, that's it for me today. I'm going to take my chameleon here and take him back home with me. I think I'll put him on my refrigerator, put him up there with a magnet. Or maybe let my granddaughter Elizabeth play with him. I think she'd like to do that. And maybe I'll let her make her own chameleon when we get home. I don't know. We'll see. And I will see you later. Bye.